Is your behavior highly irregular? Welcome back to another edition of Drotalks. Audiobooks, Dro here. Today I will be discussing book 2 of Stanley Pargo, Lost in Suburbia, The Fantastic. Actually, The Fantastico Portal. It's a bilingual title. This audiobook was written by C.L. Clarke and narrated by Philip Batley. Full disclosure here, the book was given to me by the author from an honest review, which I guarantee you can look forward to in the next coming few minutes. But a special thanks to the author, because this was a really enjoyable listen. Before we get started, I would like to give a quick thank you to all my subscribers and non-subscribers out there. All of you that took the time to watch this video, I appreciate it. If you do like this type of content, please hit that like and subscribe. It is very much appreciated. With that said, let's start on The Fantastico Portal, bilingual, by C.L. Clarke. So the main premise of book 2 is a really great premise, and that is be wary of what you wish for, because you just might get it. So before we can talk about book 2, I would like to do a quick recap of book 1 in case you haven't seen that video. If you would like to see that video, it'll be in the description box below. I will remember to put it there this time and not late like last time. But book 1 basically centered around Stanley Pargo. He was lost at sea, washed ashore to a crooked house where he met a butler bird named Wilfred, who is the best character in my opinion in both these books, and a crooked professor by the name of Professor Quibbly. And basically it's a very fun, lighthearted adventure. There's a couple scary moments in there, but I would say this is very tuned for a child around between the ages of 6 and above. I mean, it's a very lighthearted book. That one part is very intense, but it's very relaxed. It's a good time. My kids that I shared this with really enjoyed it, and but that whole book was really just Stanley focused on getting to suburbia, where he believes he is from, and he throws temper tantrums. And this is actually one of the reasons that Stanley was not one of my favorite characters. Going to book 2, we see a different progression in Stanley. He still throws temper tantrums, but this time there's some severe consequences, and and we run into that right from the onset of book 2. It's a different book, it's a different theme. And I would even say this is geared at an older audience, more likely middle school age, which is probably the whole series is geared at that age. And for this reason, I actually didn't share this book with my younger kids. And oddly enough, I actually enjoyed this book, book 2, a lot more than I enjoyed book 1, where I am pretty certain my younger children would have preferred book 1 as opposed to book 2 due to the more mature themes. And let's talk about those themes. So book 2 skips the journey portion of this little tale. Book 1 ends with them making their way towards suburbia, and book 2 starts with them arriving at suburbia. And as soon as they arrive, they are met by a suburbanite that quickly measures all of them. Stanley is deemed okay, Wilfred is deemed perfect, which I agree in every absolute sense of the term, and Professor Quibbly is deemed irregular, being that he is a crooked man. So this is basically foreshadowing from the onset that suburbia is not what we thought it was going to be. It's a very structured place with a very intense system in normality in place. And we see this right from the onset as our main characters are measured appropriately. Wilfred, being a butler, is very structured, very organized, so he fits perfectly within the system. Stanley is normal. He's a kid, so he has his temper tantrums and things of that nature, but he is also normal. But Professor Quigley, just being crooked through his physical appearance, is right away deemed irregular. Irregular is a term that you'll hear a lot in this book, and it is not a good term. So as we jump forward in this book, we got our ragtag team here, and they plant their house. If you remember in book 1, they turned it into a seed, so they plant it, and it's a crooked house, and it's deemed irregular by all the city council, all the people, all the population of this town. But they're taken in. They're taken in. I wouldn't say they're taken in with open arms, but they're taken in. And with that, it is deemed irregular that Stanley is not in school, so he starts school And this is where the darkness begins. And it's really a story of a man against a system. In this sense, Stanley being that man, and his confrontation with the system. You know, Stanley does what Stanley did in book 1, and he throws temper tantrums, he fights against it. But this time, although Wilfred does come in to save him in certain scenarios, when he's at school, he's by himself, and he's up against the professor, the principal, and they're just not having none of it. And how do they tend to make Stanley from irregular to regular, I suppose would be the right term? Well, it's child abuse. I mean, it's really what it is. It's not horrendous child abuse. I'm not sure you can actually categorize child abuse, but I mean, no one's getting butchered here. But they do have very strict punishments when rules are broken, and it is tough, and it is suspenseful, and it is uncomfortable, and it is definitely something that I don't think anyone would approve of a means to disciplining a child. And you're rooting for Stanley. You're like, he's going to win the system. He actually makes a friend in the process, and there's times that it looks like, you know, there's hope, but at the end, Stanley gets beat. And this isn't really a spoiler, because it's the feel of this book. As soon as you go into it, you feel the weight of this system. And the system has been in place for a very long time, and you don't really get the vibe that Stanley's going to triumph over the system. So he starts planning his escape with the new friend that he made, and that's really the threshold of this story. It's kind of an uncomfortable journey, but you do get to see Stanley grow. You get to see him triumph over these obstacles, over these punishments that are placed on him, and then you get to see how he deals with it. And this book took Stanley from being my least favorite character to being right up there with Wilfred. I mean, Wilfred, I don't think you can dethrone Wilfred. He's just awesome, and he's awesome in this book. Worst part about this book is probably Wilfred is less of a center point than he was in the last book, but when he comes in, boy, does he come in and just, it's like, I want a Wilfred. You know, he's a great bird. He's a great bird. That's all there is to it. So I really enjoyed book 2. I personally enjoyed book 2 more so than I enjoyed book 1. And book 2 ends with them actually transitioning through that the Fantastico portal, as they say. And then this is really where you take a more standardized, a more common approach, where book 2 was really man versus the system. Book 3 appears to be man versus monsters, which is much more black and white. In my opinion, man versus system is a lot more scary. So I'm thinking book 3, even though if it keeps going this route, might prove me wrong and be more scary. I think it's going to be more scary in the sense of a traditional means, where it's man, monster, good, evil, good triumphs. I see that where this is going. And with that said, I actually have theories on what book 3 is going to be about. And any book that can make you theorize is a book worth reading or a book worth listening. So I'm going to end this review right there. I definitely do recommend this book. I recommend the series so far. As I mentioned, I do think book 2 is centered at a more older age. I would not let my younger children listen to this book. I would say this is probably between the middle school age. I would say 11, 12 and above. But, you know, be that fantastic parent that you know you are, and pre-listen to these books and make your own assessment, because we all have different thresholds on what is too scary or too dark based on our own personal criteria. So for me, this might be 11, 12. For you, it might be just fine at a younger age, or you might even shift that even a little bit older. So, you know, do your own research, make your own decision. This is just my personal perspective on where I think this book would fit. So with that said, what is your favorite kids book? Is it Stanley Pargo? Is it something else? Comment below. That's what the comment section is for. And let me know. And as always, and most importantly, thank you very much for listening. I hope you return. Do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe. Ring that bell to get notified. And we'll see you next time.